Oh.
My phone's over there.
I can do this.
Good evening, YouTube audience.
I can do this. What's up, everybody?
Oh, we gotta give people a chance
To log in
get the alert
and view our mystery guests.
and come on
Live?
in.
Wasn't much of a mystery when their pictures up.
Well,
That's true. Well, it's still kind of a mystery.
we announced last week at the end of the show that we would have a possibility of 2 mystery guests this week.
Sounds like we have some sound. Or is that our advertisement?
And I did this, and they thought I was piecing out. I was like, no. I did this, and they thought I was
Last week,
Yeah.
we had a problem with the audio at the beginning of the show. This week, we don't.
not.
works.
Sounds crystal clear.
You able to toss that off?
You have chat off.
I don't know. I think we
It
do.
says welcome to live chat.
All right, then we have chat on. Chat away, everybody.
Chat.
All right, you guys ready? Hold on, we gotta wait for T to.
Mute it.
Oh, that's right. I got to do that.
Yeah, man, we're like rebroadcasting ourselves.
What's that echo?
All right,
God
here
damn,
we
my
go.
stomach looks.
I apologize in advance. I'm like fixated on Bohemian Rhapsody on Queen lately because I just watched that movie. And of course, no movie ever comes on just once on cable. It comes on constantly. So if you're just having to be flipping through, the Nats might be down 9-0. You're like, well, what else is on? And then all of a sudden it's bam, Bohemian Rhapsody and you just get live. Yeah. I'm gonna get over it, but right now I'm in a Queen place. It's on every night.
Every night on HBO.
That or The Martian.
Yes.
Those two. I mean, if I was on Mars,
I've seen
stuck on
neither.
Mars, we're good. I mean, I kind of feel
Leslie
like this
doesn't
basement
understand how I can watch Star Wars no matter which
Over
one
and
it
over
is,
again.
is endlessly
or Avengers, or
Stripes. I mean, whatever.
For me,
Spies
it's,
like
for
us.
me, it's
America.
Caddyshack. If Caddyshack's on, I'm locked in.
these are all ones that
Dumb
just
and Dumber.
on. They're all
Dumb and
on
Dumber.
Thompson.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Yeah, I got to
Dazed
watch
and
about
Confused.
half of Spies Like Us Sunday.
That's so
a
good.
great
Another
movie.
one.
Has to.
Whichever
That's a
half,
great
it's
movie.
fine.
Yeah, it doesn't
it
matter.
works for me.
Doesn't matter.
All right, here we go. This is the kind of stuff we're gonna get into, guys. Just for the record. But appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're gonna get started here with the WCAC Spectacular. I wasn't kidding about that, guys. Welcome and thank you for joining us on another Tuesday night in the Basement Podcast Studios of First Amendment Sports. I'm Ken Marangolo. He's Tim Strachan.
Hey guys, looking forward to this, man. I know we're down a man, but we got 2 more
down a
who
man.
joined us. And it's gonna be awesome.
It is. We had to call in some numbers. When you're down 1 Ricka, you have to. You need to build an army. Matt Seal, the real deal.
Big seat to fill here tonight. Hope I'm up to it.
I hope you're up to it too. We'll ask the chair later. If you guys hear the sound of a chair screaming, just push the button underneath the
watch
table. There's
yourself,
a
it's your
panic
chair.
button. We're joined tonight by 2 championship WCAC coaches. To my immediate left, Casey O'Neill, Pride of Gonzaga, and the Pride of the Gonzaga lacrosse program head coach at Gonzaga. Welcome, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Pride of St. John's baseball head coach Mark Gibbs.
Guys, really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to turn you up and Freddie Mercury down. One more Gibbs
It's the
in my
first
life.
time you're ever gonna hear that.
That's right.
Give
Maybe
me
ever,
more
maybe.
Gibbs.
Yeah.
Both
Give me
class
more
of
Gibbs.
1996, right?
Yes.
96ers, 2 94ers, 95.
6. Middle school
65,
classmates.
old soul.
School class.
Middle
Old
school
soul.
classmates, this guy
Yeah.
and I.
All right, fair enough. McNamara, Gonzaga, St. John's, DeMatha in the house tonight. If you're listening to us on your radio dial, that's
a good
left
mix
to right.
right there.
That is.
That
It's
is.
a dangerously good mix. We're just going to get right to kind of our coaches theme tonight and jump right into it. As you guys all know, during the off season or the summer, when we're not in season, any way we can find to talk about the greatest high school conference in the land. We stand by that. I say it every week. It's true.
Well, first of all, something tells me these guys are always kind of in season. It might not be the actual
Are you kidding me?
game
You see-
season, but
I didn't. When you look at
they
Mark's
do a
eyes,
lot more than the 3 of us or 4 of us do. That's for sure.
I've seen him in season. He looks different. I've seen him on a flag football field. He looks the same. So I think that this is a perfect opportunity. I wanted to start off with just a couple lightning round questions,
Go
T, if
ahead.
you don't mind.
Fire it off, man.
We're going to dive in the deep end of the pool. I'm going to start off. I'm going to give you guys both the same question. First question. St. John's baseball player came before you that you never got to coach, that you wish you had a chance to coach.
That's probably really bad, but I would have loved to coach my brother,
Yeah, that was the answer.
without a doubt.
To bench him or to
Just because, he plays the game the right way.
Yeah.
He's a good teammate.
Nah, he was
a
unbelievable,
tremendous
man.
baseball player. So, and he did a lot of the things as a player that we do for our team. So I would have really enjoyed coaching him.
and you could bench him if
Well,
you got out of line.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
better run out.
I bench him
Look,
at camp
I'm the
all
youngest
time,
of four
so.
boys, man. I would know what it would be like to have a little control over your older brother. I know.
Same question to you. Lacrosse player coming out of Gonzaga that you never had a chance to coach that you sure wish you had on your team.
Well, I like that answer. My brother was 10 years ahead of me at Gonzaga. I would not want to coach him. And again, I would go with, there was a young guy when I was a senior, Billy Gladding. Billy Gladding graduated in 99, had an incredible career at Virginia. Actually then walked on the basketball team at UVA.
I remember him.
Unbelievable
on the
athlete.
basketball
Great
team.
basketball, lacrosse.
That
But I would have
basketball-
loved to coach a Billy.
When he played at Gonzaga, am I right? That basketball team beat DeMatha with Keith Bogans and Joe Forte 3 times.
Yeah, you had Keith Ergo and Devin
Yeah,
Toohey.
yeah. That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
See, those are the
nice.
when we talk about getting into names. Those are names. Those are the names. I'm going to reverse the order and ask you, WCAC coach that had the biggest influence on you.
Gosh, that's a in lacrosse or any sport.
Any sport.
Moss Collins.
Yep.
Moss Collins. I played for Moss in the mid '90s, and I mean he was just longtime Carroll coach. Talking about the league,
Legendary.
WCAC legend. Didn't call you by your name, just your number. So those years I played football, I mean Moss was a legend.
Same question.
Well, I only played 2 sports at St. John's, and I did play for Pooh Strachan for my freshman year of basketball. Oh, and while I really enjoyed that, the guy who had the biggest influence on me was my dad. He
Sure.
coached me all 4 years at St. John's. He certainly laid the foundation for that program when he came on board, and a lot of the things that we do today were set up by him, and we still do a lot of the same things that we did in 1993. So there's no doubt about that. It would have been Ed Gibbs.
Outside of your brother, best baseball player that no one talks about came out of St. John's.
Oh boy, that's
Because there's been some really, really, really good ones.
there have. Are you talking about the ones that I've coached or ones that
Program. Yeah, anything.
Man, I'm gonna have to pass. I got to give
All
this
right,
some thought.
all right, all right.
I got to spend like 3 minutes thinking about this. I'm gonna make somebody mad.
I mean, I'm thinking about it, and there's a couple guys that people talked about a little bit, but when we were kind of becoming the program that we are in 2009, 10, and 11, guys like David Planning and Chris May, both who just had incredible college careers. So I got to go with those 2, but
Okay.
like Coach over here, I got to think back to some guys from the.
I know. That's why I always want to be careful.
Our history isn't as long as baseball and football. We're mid '80s. The sport started, so I'm
You're the youngest looking old guys in the room. That's for sure.
same age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
same year.
Exactly. I love it. You have anything for me? I got one more for me before we get into the.
No, go ahead. I thought this was lightning round.
Well, it's lightning-y. It's like a flash lightning.
I got one.
Go ahead.
Greatest memory from your playing days in high school, Mark?
I go all the way back to my freshman year when we were, as a freshman on the varsity program, and we were really young. Myself and Joe Sims were starting as freshmen on that team, and DeMatha had a very senior-laden team that year. Had a really good team, and they had some good upperclassmen. Johnny Poss. They had four or five older guys that played Division I baseball, and we beat them my freshman year. And we actually had them beat twice. We lost them the first time over at Riverdale Rec on a home run, and then came back and we beat them at St. John's. And I think for us, it kind of, as players, it showed that we could compete day in and day out with the best program in the area. So without a doubt, that was the best memory of playing
That's
at St.
awesome.
John's for sure.
Case.
So very, very eerily similar. My freshman year, was lucky enough to make the varsity Gonzaga team, and in my 4 years there was the only time we won a championship. lacrosse championship, and we beat Paul VI in the final. And it was a crazy, crazy way to beat him. So we were up. The game was played at Good Counsel back then. The championship would be played at the Good Counsel in Wheaton.
Yeah.
So we're playing Paul
Yeah.
VI in the WCAC
Had the lights
championship.
and everything, yeah.
Had the lights, the grass field, a little bumpy,
Yeah.
and it was a great venue. We were up, I want to say, 5-1 at halftime, and the skies opened up. Lightning, I mean, you talk about it, and this storm would not go away.
See, lightning.
It rained so much, and they had us in the gym. I'll never forget it, out there at Good Counsel. And they just said, we field's unplayable. We're going to come back tomorrow and play the second half. We came back the next day. And again, I'm a freshman. This is my first experience in a big varsity championship game. Come back the next day, and they make a comeback. They actually take the lead. We ended up tying this game with, probably 8 seconds on a ricocheted shot. We won in overtime. Incredible memory as a lacrosse player. I'll never forget it.
So before we get into some other stuff, you guys have won your share and other people's share of titles, in your sports. So, including very recently in the last year, what made this past championship special in a way that wasn't? How do you what did you find in this one that you took away from that made it different than all the many titles that came before it? And I'll start with you, Casey.
Sure. This year was very special for me because my son was on the team. He was a senior.
Ooh, that's
and
a big deal.
And I've known him obviously for his whole life, but
Yeah,
his
get that one right.
His his buddies, these young men who I've watched grow up, coaching them in CYO, and to watch these kids grow together. And I'll be honest, we like Coach over at St. John's, we have a tough out-of-conference schedule. We don't duck anybody. And so we had some ups and downs to begin the season. And to go through the season we went through with a little bit of adversity, it just made it really cool to do that, not only with Cole, my son, but with his buddies. To do it the way we did it against a young, just never give up type of St. John's team, for them to come back and give us adversity in the fourth quarter. And it was cool. It was really, really special to do that with those kids. So that made this year just super special.
That's perfect. That'll make it stand out. That's for sure. Yeah, is it a little bit dusty in here?
They both have almost cried already.
Yeah, I should have gone first that time. It doesn't matter what we did.
We got a little Roy Firestone down here again.
You have your son, yeah. But
yeah.
What do you got for us, Coach?
Well, I think if you just simply looking at the season, we did a lot of things that we had never done before as a program. We had never been wire to wire as number one in the Washington Post. We had never won 30 games yet. So I think those two things make the season stand out as opposed to any of the other ones that we had. But I also think the amount of young players that contributed for us this year made it special. And I think that having a smaller senior class, I'm not sure a lot of people thought with 7 seniors that we were going to be able to do what we did. So, for those reasons, it was really special for us.
Well, that's awesome.
I think that's a great segue into what I wanted to get into with you guys, and what I think is so cool about what we're doing, covering this league, is we've already heard you both talk about winning championships as you were players, playing back in 1996 and in the early 90s, as did we, and we won our fair share of championships too. We always love to put a lot of shine on this league and talk about the biggest differences, good and bad, from when we played in our era 20, 25 years ago compared to now you're coaching kids in the same league. What are the differences? What are the good things from the back in the day, and what's different now?
Well, first, and I think this will never change about this league, is that, there's a special bond amongst the teams that play in this league because it's such a tough league, because there are so many good players, and you can walk down the street in Bethesda and be walking by, a restaurant, and there's a guy from, Gonzaga at the Math, a good counsel, whoever that you played against, sitting in a restaurant. You can stop, and you can have a 45-minute conversation about what happened in this league. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a bond with the players in this league. I think, unfortunately, the way that youth sports has gone, that high school sports as a whole have been diminished. Uh-huh. And so now a lot of athletes don't think that what they do during their high school season is as important as anything else that they do during the course of their lifetime. What I as a coach continually remind them is that, in 30 years, nobody's going to remember who was all Met. Nobody's going to remember who was all American. You're going to remember the games that you played against DeMatha, the games that you played against DeMatha, coming back in Game 3 of the semifinals with 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th to win that game. That's what you're going to remember. You're not going to remember all the individual stuff. And so I think that, for me, is the biggest thing about high school sports is I don't think it's viewed as important as it was 25 years ago.
Also because they're doing it year round. They got their training, they got their AAU, they got their select teams and travel teams and all that kind
Without a doubt.
Just specialization.
Yeah.
It's every
Yeah,
sport.
specialization,
Though. It's
yeah.
not just
Yeah.
one or two. It's virtually every sport now. It's
I would-
expected to be a year-round thing.
I was
Wait,
going to.
is lacrosse there yet? I mean, is the
It can be. I mean, it is. And I was going to sort of piggyback off of that. I mean, look, with the beauty of it, I completely agree. All these guys we're talking about and these friends for a lifetime. And, at the end of the day, it's those experiences that you have with your buddies and who the guys you're playing against. I think one of the good things back in the day is you did have a lot more guys, doing football, and then they'd go play baseball, or they'd play basketball, and then they'd play.
I was looking for that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had more
multiple
of those
sports.
multi-sports, and
Yeah.
and I've always said this for years. I mean, for us to be successful, or where we became successful, at least the way I looked at it was, the questions I'd ask young players coming to the school is, what are your grades like, and what other sports do you play? Because I want to know that you can make a layup, right? You can catch a football, throw a football, catch a baseball. All these different things are very important to us because we want athletes and well-run kids. And I think it's become much more difficult with that. And the negativity now, and that's why I pulled this up, these things are driving our kids and me,
Yeah.
the cell phones, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Snapchat, the individual just attention that these kids are getting, and they're making announcements. Check back to my Twitter page at 8 p.m. tonight. Yeah, I mean, again, and that's fine. That's the world we're in.
Oh, I hate it.
But oh my
You're sounding
goodness.
old and crotchety right now.
No, but
No, I don't
it's-
want to sound because I'm
I think
looking at
it's
the
true.
phone.
We are.
But at the
It's
same
like-
time,
you're
it's the kids are so much more than what their Instagram
How many likes they get.
or
That's what it's all about.
that's not who you are completely. Like you are, it's a Catholic league. You're spiritual. You're smart. You know what I mean? You play sports, and you're so much more than just what your Instagram says
and
you are.
a little bit to what Mark said as well. Like I saw somebody saying, they were showing, athletes somewhere at some big thing, and they won a championship. And they all had their phones up like that, and somebody said, "Put it down and enjoy it."
Yeah.
We didn't have cell phones back then. The only thing we have is, as you said, the memories of what that feeling
Yep.
was like, or what it felt like, or what it what it was like to put yourself back into that time. And these kids are all just doing it off their phones.
That's
kinda
why.
funny you guys
That's
bring
why
that
I take a lot of pride in what we're up to.
Sure.
I think about the football games we did, the lacrosse games that we did, the basketball games that we did. I'm someday it might get too spiderwebby up there. That DeMatha McNamara Cadillac Wright game. Gets
Oh,
foggier
yeah.
and foggier by the year, but the Gonzaga DeMatha final, will live forever
Yep.
for all those kids and for everyone from the WCAC. And I that's why I want First Amendment Sports to be able to tell you guys, we're going to be back to get the lacrosse final should Gonzaga make it back, and we're going to find a way to get baseball, on the First Amendment Sports platform, because we appreciate what you guys do. We appreciate the product, your product, your work product, the time and energy you spend investing in these kids. It is apparent. And so, but let me ask you guys to finish this sentence. For the WCAC to take the next phase of the WCAC in baseball, blank team is on the way to making that. The blank team is going to be added to the mix. So you have a couple teams in WCAC that you count on. Are going to be tough outs. But to get that one more program into that upper tier of the WCAC. Can you talk about a program that's just on the cusp that you kind of see as being, a team that's going to potentially, make the WCAC even stronger in baseball specifically?
Well, and I don't say this because you're in the room, but I think McNamara is right there. Coach Sosnowski's done a fantastic job with his guys down there, with really limited facilities and limited time. But he's put a ton of work in, and I believe I'm from Anne Arundel County, but I played baseball in PG County growing up, so I believe that getting baseball in PG County is a very important thing. The math is in PG County, but a lot of their players come from Anne Arundel County. And so getting baseball back to where it needs to be in PG County is an important thing because there's a lot of really good athletes down there. But I do, for us in baseball, I mean, prior to 2014 when we went, when we've been on our run, it was like, 5 different programs had won a championship in the previous 8 years. And I always said that's what made baseball special, was that there was so much parity.
Yep.
And so, we have played a bunch of different teams in the finals. Obviously we played DeMatha the last 2 years, but, have played, played O'Connell, played DeMatha, played Good Counsel. So we played a bunch of different teams in the finals. So I think there's a lot of teams that are there year in and year out, and a lot of teams that, obviously go up and down. I mean, it's hard to maintain, but a lot of teams that go up and down. So
And it's people sleep on, they see 30 wins and they think, oh, well, who are they playing? And they're playing the WCAC, so hold your horses a little bit. I think there's some hidden greatness in that number because you are playing a lot of good competition in the league at the moment, and I think it is. And I also think that St. John's success in baseball specifically has been a big part of what's drawn players to the conference. If they're not going to St. John's to play ball, they're going, to DeMatha. In this case, McNamara inherited some Riverdale guys. So when their program shut down last year, or took a year off, I hope they'll be back. It looks like they will be, right?
yeah, I think that they're trying to build it back up from
Yep.
from the bottom up.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. It's again, it's just different playing in this league because one, there's a lot of good coaches, but you're playing 2 games against each team in a very short period of time.
Yep.
And then the way the playoffs go is that you have to beat those same teams again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love the way that our playoffs, the quarterfinal game, no matter who you're playing, is going to be a tough game.
Yep.
And then 2 best-of-3 series. And I talk to, when we go to tournaments all over the country, and I talk to the high school coaches about how we do our playoffs. They're like, man, I really wish that we would go to that.
It's awesome.
It is.
It's great.
It's amazing.
It's cool.
What a cool experience for the players. To go into a series.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to commit to for
Yeah,
next year.
it
for
wasn't
First Amendment.
great for a young digital media
I know, it
company's
was
budget
tough.
to
It was
try and cover 3
A
baseball
best
games.
2 out of 3.
Yeah, you would have been much better about 10 years
We
ago.
were hoping for the third and get out there for that third.
So similar question, Casey, but twisted in the following way. As a fellow Calvert County, Anne Arundel County guy, I grew up, as these guys know, I like to wax philosophical about lacrosse. You grew up with a lacrosse stick in your hand. Didn't play organized lacrosse, but played with a bunch of the Calvert lacrosse guys. That was the lacrosse program where I grew up. And it was a big deal. Everyone played lacrosse. But the WCAC wasn't the strength in their area for lacrosse for a long time. And over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, there's been talent, undeniable talent in the league, but the strength of the league as a lacrosse kind of power conference in the region has really come on strong. And I was going to ask you about, there's a lot of young coaches in the WCAC, and maybe if you could give a couple examples. I mean, these guys very well, and they're doing awesome things around the league.
Sure. And look, our conference, I mean, if you kind of go historically, lacrosse was, 85 that kind of came into this area, and you think of not in our conference, but Landon and Georgetown Prep and those schools that had it a little bit longer. And then, DeMatha was kind of the program, that grit, that blue collar, that toughness.
It was like Adam Taliaferro.
I mean, when thing in the
Jonathan
90s,
Lee,
I mean, you're
back
talking,
then,
Andy Gallagher
Yeah.
and Brendan
Gallagher.
Looney. I mean, you have Paul Rabel. I mean, it was
Yeah,
just, it was
of course,
tough to go
Rabel
out
was A.
to Riverdale Rec and beat them. And I don't
Yeah.
care who you are. You go out on a dirt field in Riverdale Rec and just strap it up and go after it. It was a tough place to play. And DeMatha kind of had that edge, and then you get into the 2000s, and they continued, and you saw St. Mary's Riken. So you're talking about a little bit of Southern Maryland, and Riken comes into the league, and they had some great years. And we've been fortunate because we've had talk about those 2-sport guys, and so we've had a run, but it's great to see. I mean, what Coach Speaks is doing over at St. John's, it's unbelievable in the last 3 years, and just how organized and how tough, and these great kids they're getting that just. They care and they fight. And at Paul VI, Coach Waters over at Paul VI they've just had stability over there. And year in and year out, I mean, they're winning 15, 16 games. Kind of to go off that question about what team is up. I mean, I look at Ireton, right? Ireton lacrosse as coming up because Ireton has a new young coaching staff and Coach Young over there. I see Good Counsel being another hotbed because of what they have and you know, Howard County being so close and how big the sport is becoming and sort of, you know, just that close, being that close to Howard County. And so, you know, O'Connell had coached Giblin for a while. He unfortunately left, and he's up there. I loved coaching against him and with, you know, talking to him in the meetings, but he's up at Mount St. Mary's. And so there's just so much there's just so many, you know, youth leagues and things going on that, you know, the conference is as good as it's ever been right now.
That was another thing I was going to touch on. I know, or at least seems like youth lacrosse right now is richer than it's ever been, just in terms of numbers and the options that are out. What's youth baseball like these days? Is it as good as it was back when we were young? Is it different? I don't know much about youth baseball these days.
You know, yes and no. I mean, first there are so many kids in the last 15 years that have gone to lacrosse, and it all starts when they're 9 and 10. And I can remember when my son first started playing baseball, and we're going out to practice, and he's 7, and we've got one corner of the field, and we're practicing baseball, and then in the other corner there's lacrosse practice going on, and they're running around for 45 minutes, and we're standing around for 45 minutes. And so, you know, I had no concerns about whether or not my son played basketball, baseball, lacrosse, whatever, as long as he was doing something. But a lot of the athletes have gone to lacrosse, which is why I do think that there's a large amount of athletes now playing lacrosse. Baseball wise, there is so much training now that I think the players, you know, they're better technical wise when they get to high school, but they're not as good athletes because they're only playing baseball year round. You know, they're not playing football, they're not playing basketball. I mean, they're not playing soccer, which for baseball players, if you look at a lot of the Latin guys that are playing in major leagues, they played soccer growing up. Yep. So I think that part of it, you know, it's kind of a two-pronged question. Is that they're better technique-wise, but they're not as good, you know, as athletes as they would have been 15 or 20 years ago because they're not playing.
Not many Kevin
sports.
Gibbs out there playing quarterback for the football team, point guard for the basketball team, and doing what he did in baseball.
Right.
Not many of those around anymore.
Did you play Davidsonville rec ball?
Well, when I grew up, I played soccer, and then I played football, and I played basketball through my freshman year of high school.
But did you play for the Davidsonville program?
No, never did.
Okay,
No,
because I was UIC.
No, I played for Crofton. When I was I was in middle school and stuff. I played for Crofton, and then we formed our own Babe Ruth team for middle school.
And then
Those
youth
Davidsonville
lacrosse
boys were
is
good.
like at its peak. No?
It's pretty. I don't want to use the word overwhelming, but there's just so many options for these kids, and it's almost to the point of, you know, where there's people and parents asking about, you know, can we talk about what's the best one for a kid? And you know, that's just a lot. And I always tell them, look, you know, the price, is your kid having fun?
Yeah.
Is he learning something?
Yeah.
Is he having fun for real? Asking that again. And just, you know, again, I'm always a believer of, look, if the coaches are good, the price is right, and the kids are having fun at that age, athletes are athletes, you know. They're going to get to that level, and if they want to work at it, they're going to work at it. And it's going to work out eventually, but, I mean, there's so much pressure put on. I mean, again, I go back to the phones and the social media, and you look at, like, these youth tournaments. They got kids in youth lacrosse on ESPN3 for national championships in summer league tournaments and things, and a lot of money's going into this. So there's a lot of pressure into that. It's great that the sport is growing so much. I mean, they say it's the fastest growing team sport in the U.S. and I completely believe that. You know, when we're playing teams from California and Colorado and Arizona and Texas, Illinois, Florida. I mean, you got teams everywhere, but it's a hotbed here in the D.C. area for sure.
I was so impressed when we did the girls' final. Was that Good Counsel Ireton?
Yeah.
That blew us away on the field there at Maryland. Those girls. When you talk about calling a lacrosse game, a girls' lacrosse game, they tell you there's going to be a lot of stoppages of play. You know, the nature of the game is a lot of whistles, a lot of stops, putting the sticks down. That was not the case in this game. The ball rarely touched the turf. The girls were incredible athletes. You could tell they were executing at a high level, schemes and plays, and the stars starred. When you talked about the Ireton boys program, I wonder if the Ireton girls program is partly responsible for for Ireton to really develop its boys side.
Well, the women's program there at Ireton has been one that I've admired. We've seen. Usually, we're going out. If we've been to that championship game, you see them there every year. A lot of the same speed and strength coaches that work together. That come over from Ireton or go over to Gonzaga and work with these kids. And look, they just do an incredible job with those girls and good counsel girls, Holy Cross girls. They've had these great programs. And it's you talk about the boys. Again, you got a young coach, the Alexandria youth, the Arlington youth. For years, look, Ireton's right there. St. Stephen's close by. Episcopal's close by. You can come into the city, go to Gonzaga. So there's all these different options, but you get a good young coach with energy and Pat Young, who's, playing in the PLL. What a stud. Kids want to go play for that guy. They want to go and have some fun and play fast. And so I think they're going to be one of the more dangerous teams coming up, especially with that staff.
Mark, talk about if you can think of something. I know we talked before the show. We talked a little bit about the direction of the WCAC. So, as coaches in the league and members of your respective athletic departments, without not necessarily something that WCAC is doing wrong, but maybe something as a league, and maybe not even baseball specific. Maybe it's something you think the WCAC should really think about doing this. Is there an example of that you can think of? And then, if not, what maybe something that it's doing that the WCAC is doing that no one else is doing? Kind of like the 2 out of 3 the playoff series, which is just awesome. But we'd like to think of the future of the league because it's constantly evolving, constantly improving, that will push the league to make decisions. Maybe help us out with what some of those issues might be.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it is that the league has got to do a better job of publicizing itself. Mm-hmm. If you can imagine what a WCAC basketball championship game would look like on live TV.
Oh, it was.
Well,
it was.
I take
Come
but,
on. No, I know.
So the league is relying on somebody else to come in and do it versus taking advantage of the opportunity to do it itself. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. And I thought what you guys did at the championship game with doing a game day style thing was awesome last year. I wish I had gotten over there for it, but I just don't think as a whole the league does enough to publicize the great teams that are in it. It's Max Preps is great, but the football's got 4 teams ranked inside the top 100, and the
top 20,
top 25,
into top 25, whatever 25. It is.
Oh yeah, we
had
crazy. Four top 25 national teams.
It's crazy, and you
Mark.
go out to California, it's like.
That's what this is all about.
There you go. So
we're gonna be all
That's
over
the First Amendment lineup right there.
It's our schedule. We have 10 games, 10 football games.
Yeah, and so what is the league doing to ensure that this stuff is happening, not just on those sites?
Sure.
That it's happening in multiple sites. It's so easy to stream now.
Yep.
We played Gilman in baseball 2 years ago, and they had 2 high school kids back there with an iPad stream the entire game. Live
That's our
on
chief
YouTube.
competition, actually. Those guys.
I just think they need to do a better job of getting out and publicizing the great teams and the great
with
athletes
social
that are
media
here.
too,
Yeah.
and the stuff you got there, at the fingertips, and in this area too, as good as WCAC is in all sports, families in this area have other kids that are doing other things that have, it's a very transient, very busy area. People want to see it, can't make everything, right? There's people here that are going to pay attention to what's happening in the WCAC, no matter where they are.
And it's worth noting that we all voted to cover WCAC baseball, but Kevin Ricca put his foot down and he said, "We will not cover baseball."
Not happening.
We all disagree with it.
I don't know.
but
He had something. I don't know.
We're going to send
I don't
Matt Seal
know.
to take
I don't know,
photographs,
but-
but that's all you're getting.
It's this. Don't worry. I certainly don't take offense to that.
No,
high
but
school
what-
baseball is the slowest to get on TV.
But I think that would be
Even
the funnest.
lacrosse is
If we're
on
going to say
there.
that funnest is a word, I think it would be one of the more fun days on a microphone Because we all watched Major League, we all watched baseball movies, we all watch. I mean, the idea of calling a baseball game has so much to do with just being able to engage with the
What
people
you're doing
in
now.
there. Doing this, at a baseball game, making sure we get the kids' names in, making sure we call the action on the field, talk about the schools. But a baseball game call, that's what I'm in it for. I can't wait for it. I'm excited.
No doubt. So I work in the development office at St. John's, and so every game that is streamed live. So I have an entire portfolio of alumni that I deal with, and
That's great.
The link goes out to all those guys, and it's like, I mean, it is crazy. I get emails on Monday morning from guys in San Diego saying they watched the entire game.
That's awesome.
I can't believe what happened at the end of
So
that
let's
game.
make sure we have his link from the development
Oh
office.
yeah,
before he
go.
Oh
leaves.
yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt. I hear 100% right. And I pitched this an idea along those lines when I had the pleasure and honor of addressing to all the heads of schools in WCAC about a month ago. We said essentially the same thing. Really pushed for and Steve Colantoni is in many ways leading the way to move the ball just a little bit further down the field to get something like that accomplished. I hope. I want us to be a part of it, but I know it's going to be all about getting all the schools to 100% buy in to the idea. Because what I'm saying is, yeah, all the athletes and all the sports. But I told these guys, I said, what band, cheerleaders, dance teams, debate teams, anything kids are doing in the WCAC, we should be putting it out there because they're doing it at the best, highest, most awesome level out there for all kids their age. And the parents want to see it, but it stands as a model for all other conferences and in the country to say, well, these guys look what these guys are doing. So I agree with you 100%. What about you, Casey?
I also see it. So I work at Gonzaga. I'm the assistant athletic director. So I'm in on some of the meetings, and I can say this: that the ADs meet once a month. The principals, I think it's every other month or so. But they're constantly talking about things, and I think one of the things the league can do. So just recently at the Nats game, they had WCAC night.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
I was there.
We were
Awesome.
there. We were there.
I want to see more. Well, there's two things. I want to see more of those types of things. Golf outings, getting together, being around the coaches, the faculty, the staff, and just getting the schools together. We're all preaching the same thing, or at least we all think we are, and trying to do the right thing. I want to see more of that and more of that was just so fun, just to see people with the hats and the different schools.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, me personally, being a coach, being a spring sport guy like you, we have no time. Like, we really have no time. I'm not asking for more practice time. I'm not asking for more the seasons to be extended. But if you look at it from our perspective in the spring, football starts August 1st, when they're putting on the pads and they go all the way to close to December.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then I'm looking at in the wintertime, okay, basketball, November 6th, winter sports start. They're going all the way to late February, for the championship, and then the Alhambra and this. And then we get to go, what is our spring sports date? February 20? And then we got to wrap things up in early May. I mean, that's a tight window for a championship baseball program, lacrosse program, to get the 30 games that you get with inclement weather. I'm just, I'm fighting here for our spring sport rights here. So we have a little bit, maybe some more time to extend and some things, but you just got to look at it in
more
a sport
shine.
Equality. That's what he wants.
I mean, we had to fight this year. I just want to make sure that our ADs and principals are up to date on the rules and all the things that we want to do to make our kids, be in the best light. So.
And that the one thing I heard you said that I have heard.
I'm gonna get in trouble for saying all that, by the way.
No way. No, I talked to Joe earlier. I was like, he's gonna go rogue, but don't worry about it. It's fine. The conference acting like a conference. I've heard Steve say that. I've heard coaches say that. I've heard ADs say that. When the conference acts like a conference, is an awesome thing. When that goes down, it's an amazing thing. I loved the WCSC night at the Nats night. I loved seeing you out there on the field before the game. I was telling my two little girls and my son, I was like, that's he's a Anne Arundel County boy. He's from where I'm from. He played ball where I played ball. And I thought it's just cool. And then I get, there's a Academy of Holy Cross, ladies behind me, O'Connell and Paul VI and the purple and the Stags. It was awesome. And you walk around and what's the first thing you look for? What's the
What's your logo?
What's the logo? Because it answers the most popular question that's asked in this town. Where'd you go to high school?
That is the question.
That is the question.
In
Where'd you
fact,
go to high
most people
school?
say, "Where'd you go to school?"
Yeah, where'd you go to school?
They mean high school.
They mean high school. That is
Not college
that
or
is
anything like
correct.
that.
Mark
On
Gibbs.
that, let me
Go
just
ahead,
say
go ahead, go
just
ahead.
one more thing, because I want to see if we can get a little bit more Roy Firestone in here.
All right, yeah, sure.
You guys played in the league. Before you even played the league, you looked up to the league. You played in the league, and now you guys are coaches and working in administration. Just talk about how cool that is for you guys, just in general, to be a part of this league for so long, and to be so entrenched in it.
It's pretty special to be down there. You know, I think we take for granted, everybody does, you know, your day-to-day activities because you're so busy with whether it's coaching, whether it's, you know, running a football game or a basketball game, you know, whatever we do as ADs and in meetings and stuff, you take it for granted. But there's honestly the times when it hits me the most is when I least expect it. You know, when I'm walking down the hall, I see a couple kids, you know, just talking, laughing, goofing, and then something will hit me like that memory back to when I'm
That was me.
15, 16 years old, right? And I just, you know, you just see something, the old seal there by the chapel or something, and it hits you. And it says, this is my job. This is what I get to do. And it's those moments when you least expect it. You know, take aside the coaching because, you know, you kind of put your own twist on it in the locker room and things like that. It's those kind of subtle moments being on campus when you just least expect it. And it makes it, it's pretty cool. You walk back to your office and say, you know, I got a pretty good gig. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great answer. You know, my grandfather graduated from St. John's in 1941 and was 2 years behind Joe Gallagher. You know, my dad played for Joe Gallagher. My brother played for Joe Gallagher.
Ricky brought him up last week.
Yeah. And when I was in school, Joe Gallagher was still teaching.
Oh yeah.
And I think, you know, we're such a small, you know, I mean, 13 years is not small, but, you know, in the pantheon of this conference and how long it's going to be, we're just all pieces in it. And, you know, I just love the fact that I can be a part of the history of this conference that has been going on so long. And even with my family at St. John's, it's so cool. It is so cool to know that, you know, I'm coaching I'm in the same gym that Joe Gallagher was in, that, you know, John Ricca was in, and you know, it's just, you know, it's awesome.
Is there a specific place when you guys go out on the road, when you arrive, does anything come flowing back to you, like a memory about a certain game at that place or a certain guy you saw or competed against or coached at a certain place? For example, I'll give you baseball. When I watched y'all play at Paul VI this year, I have a great memory of when we were playing there. Joe Sims hit a monster home run into the bleachers. There was a lot of chirping going on in that game. And Joe hit a ball to center field that all you heard was the thump against the metal aluminum bleachers, and the place went silent. And he just trotted around the bases looking at everybody saying, yeah, I just did that. Y'all going to talk to me now? That always flows back to me when I walk into Paul VI, no matter what sport I'm going to see either. Just something like that. Does anything like that hit you guys when you go certain places in the league?
I have the same feeling. Paul VI, that field does bring back when you walk in there. Anytime I'm on St. John's campus, and again, this goes back to being a kid when I'd go to Coach Gallagher's basketball camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
just
Right.
memories. Every time I'm
Yes.
around there, when I go to DeMatha and you know, and obviously that beautiful new gym there. You know, but in that
The old
if
gym.
I could go check out the old gym, you know, I
Yep.
get to play a little freshman basketball in there and. I wouldn't say there's one exact thing, but I mean, I got memories. I drive by Carroll every day, and I look at that field and remember playing football in that field, and all of them. McNamara too. I've got great memories from playing. Best memory ever, actually. It was a fake punt.
He's
I
got
caught
it.
a fake
There you go.
punt. I was a junior at McNamara. And Rob Bell, I was the running back, and Bo Murray's a quarterback. We had all these great, you know, Chris Rozier and these great players. But they called a fake punt, and I went at 60, probably 70 yards, not to the house. I got caught on the 2, but still, that's a great memory.
Do you remember who caught you?
No, I don't remember.
Well,
I just
obviously
remember.
someone faster.
No. You know, look, the punt return. I mean, the guy's back there already. He better catch me, right? I'm going at him.
We know who didn't
That's
catch
true.
him.
But I was
That's
this close to
true.
getting
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
I was this close. But that's, I mean, see, but you saying that, all of a sudden I'm thinking about Carroll and McNamara and DeMatha and all these places.
That's
and
great.
just like, I mean, yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I'll throw another one at you if you want it.
Please, yeah.
Cocoa Beach, Florida. Rashawn Hilson was playing AAU basketball, and he was flying down to play, and he got off the plane sick as a dog. And we were playing, I think, the number 2 team in Tennessee that night. And your dad said, well, son, you're scheduled to pitch tonight. He's like, oh, don't worry, Coach, I got you. And I think he threw a 2-hit ball over 6 innings, and we beat the number 2 team in Tennessee. Just something like that. Every time when I walk into St. John's, especially when I see your dad, that comes rushing right back. It's like stuff like that. It's just
Nostalgia.
fantastic memories.
Yeah, and you brought up Joe Sims, and he was one of the fiercest competitors that I played with.
Oh, yeah.
He was a great teammate. Always had your back on the field. I can remember one time in particular when we were playing at St. John's, and I think we were actually playing Paul VI, and a guy slid through on a hard tag and took me out. And before I even hit the ground, he was standing in front of the guy in front of his face. I can't repeat what he said, but and I remember that game. It was Germantown, Tennessee, and they had a right-hander on the mound who was really good. And I think he'd committed to Tennessee, and we beat him 4-3 in that game. But with baseball, the locations of these games have changed so much. Paul VI is still in the same field, but we played McNamara at a bunch of different fields.
Casca.
We played at Casca there. But for us, it goes back to playing at Riverdale Rec and playing DeMatha over there.
Carol at Turkey Thicket.
Oh,
for some
boy.
of us.
I played all. I played the Turkey Thicket games were interesting. By the way, I wasn't there the day Joe Sims hit that home run against Paul VI, but when I picture it, I also picture him smoking a cigarette as he was rounding those bases.
That was in the car afterwards.
May he rest in peace. I know
Absolutely.
Kevin Ricca would very much appreciate the.
Joey's daughter is one of my daughter's best friends.
There you go.
That's
To this
great.
day,
That's
she's
great.
well. Aaron is with us almost every day, hanging out. It's just
Community connection.
Good.
Yeah.
full
great.
circle, man.
Well, I so appreciate your time. Far be it for me to text you a question on the day of your championship game. Get you in a heavy moment and be like, hey. I texted Casey. I texted him some questions on the day of the game.
It's fine.
It's totally amateur hour, by the way. Totally amateur
High school
hour.
coaches.
No.
It's all good.
No,
man.
meanwhile, he's like texting me all this stuff. He's like, hey, take this. You need this. I'm like, whoa, this. Hey, don't you have a game to get ready for? I'm excited to have
Now
you
you're
guys
gonna
in
get
here.
crap for that now.
The
Big deal.
your daughter's basketball coach.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
the
the
head
connections.
assistant. I'm the head assistant.
Yeah.
Head assistant.
How cool is that?
That's right. Boylan is the head
Allie's,
coach. Right?
his daughter's tough, man. She's tough and just worked hard. Best practice player, got out there in the game. I mean, she loved it. She was third grade, so she's playing up with the fourth graders.
Yeah, she actually was not even going to play basketball this year, and we decided to throw her out there, and luckily enough, and I was really happy. It was, St. Pete's got a lot of good coaches, a lot of great CYO coaches, but to have a guy of Casey's experience and without a doubt, yeah. You really know your daughter's going to be in good hands and that she's really going to enjoy the year. And they had a fantastic team. And she really, I really think that this year is going to force her to, not force her, but she's going to want to play basketball next year.
That's it.
So
And that brick
all you can
that
ask
had the note that said "Start Alley" could have been thrown through Casey's window by anybody. I mean, who knows who threw that brick?
She was stealing signs from the court. Pops.
yeah.
All right, get out a non-WCAC get out question on the night. You guys, it stems back to where we started, and you get to start. Best Bill Murray movie. Bill Murray. Best Bill Murray movie.
I'm a Caddyshack guy. I mean,
All right,
Caddyshack. I
Off the board. No one can say Caddyshack. You get first draft. Your second draft pick. Bill Murray.
Come back to me. Come back around.
No, you had the second draft pick overall. You're going to give that up? You're going to go Minnesota Viking style?
I'll trade with you.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Groundhog Day.
Oh, Groundhog. I was totally waiting for Groundhog Day.
I was going to say Caddyshack, but
You can get
Why am I mistaking Bill Murray with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd right now?
that. That Spies Like
That's
Us.
the
same
problem.
era. Same era.
Yeah, because we were talking about
We're
Spies Like
talking
Us
about
before.
Spies Like Us, yeah.
All right, keep going.
I'm going to go Stripes.
Oh.
That's a good one.
I mean, I'm a Stripes all day Stripes, but there's some. I mean, he's only in like a bunch of amazing
Scenes. Yeah.
spots. T, you got one?
What about Bob?
What about Bob? Is great.
Give me a bunch. Like, just read them down, and I'll tell you what my favorite one
Nobody
is.
said Ghostbusters.
No one said
Ghostbusters!
That was my
Yeah.
next. That was the next in the.
I would have gone Caddyshack. So
Yeah,
That's-
that's the
in
go-to.
the rankings, the best available. Todd McShay and Mel Kiper's best
you
available.
gotta
was,
ask more
was
questions. I don't want to
Ghostbusters.
go out that way.
All right. Best Pearl Jam song. You lead off,
Even flow.
Coach Gibbs.
I thought we were going.
Oh yeah, sorry. You get second
I'm
overall.
a fan of Yellow Ledbetter.
Damn it! All right, I got a rearview mirror.
Those are the only ones I know.
Really? Black, Alive.
Not a big Pearl Jam
Jeremy.
fan.
All right, that's your. I'm
Name the
not-
lead singer.
I know.
Can you name the lead? Can you lead singer? That's tough too.
He loves this game.
No.
Eddie Vedder, dude.
Okay, Eddie Vedder.
All right. But you'll.
I mean, I know who he is.
I know you know who he is. Go ahead.
You know what? One of my favorites. They did a remake of like a 1950s song, and they
Last Kiss.
Last Kiss, and they did
Yeah.
it right before. I think it was a sound check before one of their concerts, and they
recorded it.
That's
they
cool.
recorded
Where
it.
oh where?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
That's all right. That's a better one to drop the mic on.
Crazy Mary's good too.
On behalf of First Amendment Sports, thank you, Coach Mark Gibbs, Coach Casey O'Neill, Pride of St. John's, Pride of Gonzaga. He's Tim Strachan.
Appreciate it. Shout out to Jeannie Sims and the girls.
Absolutely.
Miss you, Joe. And remember, guys, stay grounded, stay rounded.
Pete Schweddy, Matt the Real Deal Seal.
Thanks for coming in, guys. It was fun. Hopefully, we can get you back in here at some point.
Oh yeah, you
Carte
signed
blanche,
a 10
anytime.
appearance deal.
Yeah.
You don't know it.
Just
but
walking in the door, you're locked in. So
You are locked
yeah.
in. The door locks from
Yeah.
the outside.
Yeah.
I am Ken Marangolo. This was the WCAC Spectacular. All right, we're still live. Don't badmouth
Still on
anybody
the
here.
camera.
Yep.
Don't badmouth anyone now.
Good job, though, guys. That
Yes,
was
thanks,
awesome.
guys. It was great.
Good stuff.
You get that handshake on
See you guys.
tape. Yeah, sometimes we'll get interference with that. So.